What is up, weather enthusiasts? I'm your host, Pat's Path Predictor. Let's get right into the weather. Alright, so here's the situation we have for you, ladies and gentlemen. We got quite a bit to discuss with Tropical Storm Gyre bearing down on the Lesser Antilles, as well as our Central American gyre threat that is showing a little bit more consistency in the ensembles. So we have that, as well as some weird area of interest that we have in the subtropics as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about all three of these things today. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and dive right into it right now. Starting off right here, as you can see, we have an Invest 96L. I can show you this right here, just zooming, scrolling up a little bit. This is Invest 96L. That is all the way in the subtropics, almost at 45 degrees north. We'll talk more about that just a little bit later, but I want to focus on Gyre since that does pose a threat to land. And this is the situation that we have. We have tropical storm warnings that have been issued. We have still multiple tropical storm watches issued as well. And Gyre has been slowing down in its forward speed. So here's the situation. Tropical storm warning issued for Barbuda. Gyre expected to be near the northern Leeward Islands later today. It's currently moving west-northwest at 18 miles per hour as it's starting to make that turn more so to the northwest. Its maximum sustained winds have increased to 65 miles per hour, so it is a strong tropical storm. Minimum central pressure is 999 millibars at this current point in time. Tropical storm watches are still in effect for Antigua, Anguilla, St. Kitts, Nevis, and Montserrat, St. Bart's and St. Martin, and then the Dutch part of St. Martin as well, Saba and St. Eustatius, and Guadalupe and the adjacent islands. That's what we got for you right here. We are looking at tropical storm conditions in the next 12 hours for parts of Barbuda. We're going to want to pay attention to that as well. Tropical storm force winds extend outward 175 miles from the center, but they are still mainly on the eastern side of it right here, as there is still some shear the system is battling. So we'll go ahead and talk about this in the discussion. So here is your discussion for you guys right here. The NOAA Hurricane Hunter Air Force hurricane hunters have been investigating Gyre this morning, and the radar and flight level wind data show that the storm remains lopsided with nearly all the strong winds in convection on the eastern side. The center itself has been difficult to fix, but the data generally supports a position that is located south-southeast of the previous track. The initial intensity is held at 55 knots based on a combination of aircraft data and satellite estimates at this current point in time. Significant strengthening seems unlikely given Gyre's elongated low-level structure. However, the shear is expected to let up some while Gyre remains over warm water and in a moist air mass. If it does start to weaken, if we do see this weaken enough, we could definitely see the low-level circulation start to get more stacked and start to get more in that convection. So that'll definitely be something that we're going to want to watch as well. Therefore, slow strengthening is predicted. They are expecting this to get up to 85 miles per hour. It was at 80 miles per hour at the max yesterday. Now they're going back up to 85 miles per hour in the next 72 hours. So we're going to want to watch out for that as well. And that's kind of your discussion right here. Taking a quick look at Hurricane Hunter Reconnaissance, we do have something in right now. We did actually have something going in just a little bit ago. This was as of earlier this morning. You did see them finding tropical storm force winds. They found flight level winds nearing 60 knots, which is 70 miles per hour, having a lot of drop zones into it as well. And then earlier today, we had some more data going in. This was more reconnaissance once again, finding those tropical storm force winds mainly on the eastern side of Gyre, as the shear is still not letting up just yet. We're going to need to wait for the system to kind of get its act together before we start seeing any chance of significant strengthening, and we'll show you this on satellite in just a couple of minutes, just what the system needs to do in order for something unexpected to take place. And then going to your graphics right here, once again, we have the cone pulled up. Here's what we have for you right here. Expected to be very close to the Lesser Antilles. We could see a potential landfall in Barbuda over here before moving out to sea right there and then becoming a hurricane, and then it starts to get yanked to the east as it kind of around the latitude of Bermuda right here, around 31, 32 degrees north, right, as it gets to the subtropics. So that's a bit of a shift from previously. We have this turning out to sea and then just making a complete 180 turn in the next 5 days. Going to be very curious to see how that will pan out going down the line, but we'll have to keep you updated on all of this here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel as time continues to go on. But one last thing I do want to show is the rainfall potential, because even if you're not going to see a lot of wind, you definitely could see a lot of rainfall. If you're anywhere from Puerto Rico all the way down to Dominica and Martinique as well, if you're looking at this 2 to 4 inches of rain, doesn't seem like that much, but 2 to 4 inches of rain in a fast-moving system, that can cause some pretty heavy flash flooding as for quite a lot of areas, especially the area of greatest risk would be in Barbuda, same with Antigua as well, the areas closest to where the system is at. Right here, you're looking at 2 to 4 inches of rain pretty much everywhere else, so you're going to want to pay attention to that going forward. And if you remember, if you're in these areas, if you're in these countries, in these islands, turn around, don't drown, especially in the more mountainous regions where mudslides are possible as well. Landslides could be possible as well for a lot of these areas as well. So we're going to want to pay attention to that as well. That will be the main threat from Gyre, unless the system unexpectedly starts to intensify and the shear starts to collapse for some reason, which we will continue to keep monitoring at this point. Now we're going to go ahead and go to satellite imagery, and we'll go ahead and go to Tropical Storm Gyre just to kind of show you what we have. So here's what we have. The center of circulation's right about here from what I'm seeing, and a lot of it's pretty lopsided. The convection is lopsided to the eastern part right here. You're noticing it how the outflow is kind of starting to act like that as well. We can go ahead and zoom out on the true color imagery as well, looking at that. Yeah, you can definitely see how this is considerably quite sheared right here. You're looking at that center of circulation and a lot of the convection mainly being to the southeast of it right here. So that shear really needs to let up once again before anything major starts to develop. Can it happen? It's possible, in my opinion, but will it happen? It's unlikely unless the shear lets up a significant amount in the next 48 hours. So that's what the main gist we're dealing with. Even if you see the outflow, you can see just how sheared it is right here, especially with this higher upper level cirrus going out in this direction as well. Looking at this all over the place, and you're seeing convection too, kind of firing off over here, well away from the system as well, where the outflow generally is. That is telling you just how stretched out and just how sheared this is right here, because normally you do not typically see that unless you are in the Midwestern United States for a severe weather outbreak. By the way, I'm aware of the EF5 tornado designation. I've seen that. I haven't talked about that. There will be a documentary out about it at some point, just letting you guys know. But ultimately, what you're seeing with this going on right here is just, number one, how sheared it is. Number two, despite the fact that it's so sheared, the fact that it's a 65-mile-per-hour tropical storm at all is just quite frankly shocking at this point. This does kind of, I will say, remind me of when Fiona did this, because for those of you who do not know, before Fiona became a hurricane and became the monster it was in Puerto Rico with the flash flooding and all of that, it was a very sheared 50 to 60 mile per hour tropical storm as it was heading towards that region, and then it started to blow up some more convection here in the center of circulation. The shear started to let off at the best possible time for the system and the worst possible time for Puerto Rico, and then just plowed through the island and plowed through much of the region, eventually became a Category 4 hurricane out to sea, and then head towards Canada. Caused a lot of damage in Puerto Rico as well, so that's something to keep in mind as well. This is eerily similar to that. Am I saying that this could potentially be another Fiona situation? No, I'm not saying that at all. Fiona was a Category 4 hurricane when it moved out to sea. Also, this is not going to go... it's not going to make landfall in Puerto Rico. This is going to stay out to sea, most likely, or make landfall in the Leeward Islands. Could Puerto Rico get impacts by this? Yes, but we'll have to wait and see how that pans out. But one little weird thing that we do need to talk about once again, is this area of interest, Invest 96L. I'm going to zoom up a little bit. Actually, this is the perfect for my camera right here. Can we just talk about, first of all, how subtropical this is right here? And second of all, why did the NHC designate this an Invest? I'll read through this discussion to kind of understand what they're going through with this, but here's the situation. A gale force, a non-tropical area of low pressure located several hundred miles to the west-northwest of the Azores, is producing limited shower activity near its center. Some subtropical or tropical development of the system is possible over the next day or two before it moves into even cooler waters and in a stronger shear environment. For more information, for gale warnings, NWS, Meteo France, and the high seas forecast will be giving you that data. But I want to go ahead and take a look at the satellite imagery of this very quickly, and just ask a legitimate question real quickly. Actually, looking at the satellite imagery, I see where they're coming from. I see where they're coming from with development possible. Could we see it? Very unlikely, but it definitely has a pretty tight area of rotation over there this far to the north. But if we do see some tropical convection happening over there, if we do see tropical development, that'll be our K-named storm right there, the 11th storm of the season. So that'll be pretty interesting to see what happens if that holds. But if it wraps around and it starts to get its act together, you know what? I apologize for roasting this a little bit ago, because this actually may have a decent chance right here. Am I saying it's going to develop? No. When I mean decent, I mean like 20 to 30%. That's what I consider decent in this part of the Atlantic right here. So that's what you're dealing with right here. Definitely more organized than I was thinking going down the line, but that's not the main thing I'm concerned about. Gyre is the main thing I'm concerned about, but I'm also extremely concerned about something that may be happening down the line too, and that is our Central American gyre development. We talked about this with the Climate Prediction Center. We talked about how they were really favoring tropical development over there, so we're going to go ahead and zoom in over there, look at some of the ensembles, and give a general gist as to what's going on. So here is what we got for you guys right here. This is the Western Atlantic. So this is what we got from the European. This is the latest ensemble tracks right here. So let's go ahead and go back out to starting about 4 days out, which will be October 13th. October 13th, you do see a couple of ensembles picking up system stuff here and there, but by and large, the main focus is mainly the Eastern Pacific at this current point, where you're starting to see a lot of ensembles popping up there. I've looked at a lot of the models once again. That's more of a mesoscale type of system, where what I mean by mesoscale is it's not a very large system, and it won't really do that much to affect the Caribbean or the Gulf region in terms of wind shear and for the outflow it's going to produce. That's what I mean by mesoscale. It's too mesoscale to really impact areas outside of the Eastern Pacific. So that's what you're looking at right here. Then going to 5 days out, which will be October 14th. Right here, you're definitely starting to see a lot more ensembles popping up all over the place from the Gyre. 996, 1002, 1006, a lot of 1007s, 1008s. So there's definitely some power associated with it right here. My main question is, how accurate are these, and are we going to see a consistent trend down the line? Because before in yesterday's video, everything was all over the place. We weren't 100% sure what was going to be happening. Now we're seeing a little bit more of a consistent trend, but still not enough evidence to really support one way or the other. You still have some ensembles heading towards Cuba, and you have other ensembles heading towards the Yucatan Peninsula. So you're going to want to pay attention to those down the line. But ultimately, you do see that increase of ensembles picking up. Definitely a more likely scenario that's going to start popping up over there. And you do have more ensembles agreeing on a westward shift over here compared to what we've seen previously. But again, a little too early to figure out what's going on. We need more data. We need more information. We'll keep you updated on that. But you're looking at this. The systems, the ensembles that develop it generally have more power associated with it. 948, 991, 1003. 1004. So strong tropical storm, hurricane strength generally is what we're seeing with this going down the line. So that's what we have with the European. And going to October 19th, generally seeing that still being a main thing as well. Not very many ensembles, but a lot of power ensembles as well that we're going to want to pay attention to, at least for the next few days. Looking at the GFS ensemble runs, here is the 0Z. We'll go ahead and go to 5 days out, which will be the 14th of October. More in agreement than the European, I am noticing right here, and generally more power in that agreement. And another thing is the GFS ensembles are more consistent. You're noticing that westward turn towards the Yucatan Peninsula right here by October 15th. Then as we get to October 17th, a lot of these head due west into the Yucatan Peninsula at strong tropical storm to hurricane strength right here, and then move into the Bay of Campeche. We're not 100% sure what that's going to do afterward. We just have a general gist as to what's going on. All that we know is the Climate Prediction Center is forecasting the Central American gyre to wake up pretty considerably in the next couple of weeks. And if you're watching this Eastern Pacific stuff that the GFS is also pumping out and going, Patrick, are you sure this is not going to impact tropical development in this region? You never know with these types of systems. I'm looking at this, and based on the modeling I'm noticing and based on the conditions over there, this looks like it's going to be too small of a system to really do much to the Atlantic. So we could actually see a rare scenario where we have something develop in the Eastern Pacific and something develop in the Atlantic side of the gyre. It happened last year with Hurricane Helene. It's not something out of the ordinary in terms of tropical meteorology. It's happened on numerous occasions. Helene just happened to be the most recent and arguably most infamous example of that, given some of the consequences that we saw with that. So that's what you're looking at with the GFS ensembles. Just out of curiosity, I want to see what the FNV3 is showing right here. Not really showing that much compared to the European and GFS. Those are the two that are mainly leading the charge on this. And then looking at the GENC, yeah, it's mainly the Euro and GFS leading the charge on this. So we'll have to wait and see how this pans out going forward. So that's your situation that you're dealing with for the gyre. Now we're going to go ahead and go for some model runs and kind of give the nice general rundown to all of this. Let's go ahead and start with the European. We're going to be talking about both Gyre and what we're seeing with the gyre. So here's European. Gyre moving through the Antilles right here as a tropical storm. Starts to go out to sea. The shear starts weakening quite a bit. Just for my own curiosity, I want to look at the wind shear map of this and see what's going to be happening. So looking at that, that is why you're seeing all the convection to the southeastern side of it. All of that wind shear over there, just generally just shearing it to the southeast over here. And once that moves out of the islands right here, you do notice how that shear starts to level off and lay back, especially as you head towards out to sea. A lot of this starts to move outward away from the system, and you're starting to notice a better pocket of shear that starts to kind of get its act together right before this jet starts to potentially chip away at it. But I will say there could be a rare scenario, well, not so rare, but a scenario where the outflow, if it can get its act together, gets caught into that jet and really enhances it down the line. That would be a pretty big possibility for that to happen. And then the European starts to curve that to the east and starts having this head towards the eastern Atlantic, potentially crashing into the Azores Islands, similar to what Humberto did with those hurricane warnings we saw for those regions as well. So that's something to pay attention to down the line. Here's the European AI run. Once again, here's the AI model that we're seeing with Gyre. The European AI run is not really the best prone in terms of forecasting, in terms of intensity, but it's definitely good with tropical development in general. You do have a few low pressure systems starting to pop up here in the Central American gyre as well, and you also notice this as well in the, not so much with the European, but more so with the AI model. But yeah, you're noticing it right here. You're noticing a few low pressure systems off the gyre right here, low pressure highlights over there that you're going to want to pay attention to. The question is, can the European operational and the ensembles start to, are they going to ramp up, and is the operational going to start catching up, or are things going to start getting a little less interesting down the line, and are we going to need to start focusing on winter weather? That's the main thing I'm looking at with this. So that's your European run. Looking at the GFS, GFS is pretty interesting. The 12C GFS did actually have something firing off over in this part of the gyre right here. So that's pretty intriguing. That's the 12Z GFS. So I just want to, after I look at the operational, I want to check the ensembles very, very quickly just to see if I'm seeing this right and if we see a pretty big surge with this. So GFS has something developing off the gyre starting about 4 days out, and then things really start to turn up right here as this becomes a hurricane off the coast of the Yucatan Peninsula, kind of hovers there for a while, and then just kind of meanders in the Gulf region. I'm going to be brutally honest, I do not trust this operational run because of the track. I really do not trust this because of the track. I was just looking at this app for my own interests. I want to see what the 0Z was saying before this, just to say, okay, is this a one-time thing, or is this actually going to happen? Yeah, it's more of a one-time thing, but the GFS still has potentially something popping out in that region as well. So we're going to want to pay attention to that as well. But with that being said, though, things are getting more interesting. We'll keep you updated here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel, and we'll close the video out right here. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Goal, as always, is to get more people engaged with weather. Want to help out, hang out, or ask us questions? Join the Storms United Discord server. The link to that is in the end screen. And with that being said, have a wonderful day, guys. Stay safe.